The last signaled the purple sky of Tharos Prime burned with unnatural fire as another wave of plasma missiles crashed into the colony's outer defenses. Kira Thane pressed her scaled palm against the reinforced crystal window of the command bunker, watching her world die piece by piece. The elegant spires that had taken her people 3 generations to build now lay in smoking ruins across the valley floor. "Administrator Thane," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Communications Officer Zeph, his usually bright blue skin now pale with exhaustion. "The last defense tower has fallen. The energy barrier is down to 12%. Kira closed her 4 eyes and felt the weight of 8,000 lives pressing on her shoulders. The Zelani had been a peaceful species for over a millennium. Their crystal cities drew energy from the planet's core, their floating gardens fed entire star systems, and their healing arts had saved countless lives across the galaxy. But none of that mattered to the Crimson Horde. "What about the evacuation tunnels?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Sealed off. The Horde destroyed the mountain passes 6 days ago. The underground transport system is our only option now, but it only leads deeper into the planet's core." Elder Jorak limped forward, his ancient frame supported by a walking crystal that pulsed with soft light. At over 300 years old, he had seen the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. His voice carried the wisdom of ages as he spoke. In the old legends, when all hope seemed lost, help would come from the stars. Not from the known worlds, but from the forgotten places where new life grows in darkness. Kira had heard these stories as a child, but now they felt like cruel jokes. The Galactic Council had ignored their distress calls for 3 weeks. The neighboring systems were too afraid of the Crimson Horde to risk their own fleets. The Z were alone. Commander Vex of the Crimson Horde stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the beautiful planet below through cold, calculating eyes. His species, the Krugan, had evolved for war. Their thick, armored skin could deflect most energy weapons, and their massive frames could tear through metal with bare hands. But it was their minds that made them truly dangerous. They saw beauty and wanted to corrupt it, saw peace and wanted to shatter it. "How much longer until we breach their final defenses?" Vex asked his tactical officer. 6 hours, Commander. Maybe less if we concentrate fire on the northern approach." Vex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "No, let them suffer. Let them know that death is coming slowly. Fear makes the crystals more potent when we harvest them." The Crimson Horde had been raiding peaceful worlds for decades, but Tharos Prime was their greatest prize. The planet's energy crystals could power their war machines for generations. The Zelani themselves would make excellent slaves, their natural healing abilities useful for keeping other conquered species alive just long enough to work. Back in the bunker, Kira stood before a holographic display showing the colony's remaining defenses. Red indicators flashed across the map like a disease spreading through her people's hearts. Only the deepest bunkers remained secure, housing the children, the elderly, and the wounded. "Try the emergency beacon again," she ordered Zeph. "Administrator, I've been broadcasting on all frequencies for 3 weeks. If anyone was coming, they would have tried again." Zeph's fingers danced across his control panel, sending another desperate message into the void. The transmission was weak, powered by the last of their emergency generators. It traveled through space at the speed of light, carrying with it the hopes of an entire species. 3 light-years away, Dr. Alina Vasquez was analyzing mineral samples from an asteroid belt when her equipment detected something unusual. The research vessel Endeavour was humanity's newest deep space exploration ship, designed to push the boundaries of known space and search for signs of life among the stars. "Captain Chen, you need to see this," Alina called out, her voice echoing. Through the ship's compact bridge, Captain Marcus Chen was a veteran of humanity's expansion into space. He had seen wonders that would make poets weep and dangers that would terrify soldiers. But in all his years among the stars, he had never encountered another intelligent species. "What is it, Doc?" Elena's hands trembled as she adjusted her instruments. "It's a signal, artificial. Someone's broadcasting a distress call." The bridge fell silent. The Endeavour carried a crew of 35 humans, all volunteers who had left Earth behind to explore the unknown. They were scientists, engineers, and explorers, not soldiers. But they were also human, and humans had a peculiar habit of helping those in need. "Can you translate it?" Chen asked. "The ship's computer is working on it. The signal is using mathematical constants as a base language. Whoever sent this is extremely intelligent." Lieutenant Sarah Park, the ship's tactical officer, studied the readings. "Captain, the signal is coming from a planet 3 light-years away, but the energy signature suggests it's under attack." The translation came through moments later, spoken in a mechanical voice that somehow conveyed desperate emotion. "This is Colony Administrator Kira Thane of the Zelani settlement on Theros Prime. We are under attack by unknown forces. 8,000 civilians need immediate evacuation assistance. Our defenses are failing. Please respond. Please help us." The message repeated every 30 seconds, growing weaker with each transmission. Chief Engineer Tom Rodriguez looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy discharges from that system. Someone's using heavy weapons down there." Chen stared at the starfield displayed on the main screen. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Not humans, but people nonetheless. The first contact protocol was clear. Observe, document, and report back to Earth. Do not interfere in alien conflicts. "How long would it take us to get there?" he asked. "At maximum speed, 18 hours, replied Navigator Beth Kim. "And how long for a message to reach Earth Command?" "For weeks minimum. Another month for any response." Chen walked to the observation deck, where the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Behind him, he could hear his crew discussing the situation in hushed tones. They all knew what the protocol demanded, but they also knew what their consciences demanded. Dr. Vasquez joined him at the window. "They're dying, Marcus. While we debate, an entire species might be wiped out. We're not equipped for combat, Alina. We're explorers, not soldiers. Since when has that stopped humans from doing what's right?" Chen thought about his daughter back on Earth, about the world she would inherit. Did he want it to be a universe where humanity turned away from those in need, where the strong preyed on the weak without consequence? "All hands to stations," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We're changing course. We have a distress call to answer." The Endeavour turned toward the Theros system, its engines burning bright against the darkness. Behind them, they left the safety of known space. Ahead lay the unknown, and the first test of humanity's character among the stars, on Theros Prime. The bombardment continued. The Crimson Horde had begun their final assault, and the remaining defense towers fell one by one. In the deepest bunkers, Zelani families huddled together, sharing what little food remained and telling stories to keep the children calm. Elder Jorak sat with a group of youngsters, his ancient voice weaving tales of heroes and legends. And so the great warrior, Thane the Bold, stood alone against the shadow fleet, his crystal sword blazing with the light of 1,000 suns. One child, no older than 50 years by Zilani standards, looked up with wide eyes, but Elder Thane the Bold was just a story. No one really fought the shadows. The old Zilani smiled sadly. Perhaps, little one, but sometimes stories are all we have to keep hope alive. Kira listened to the elder's words as she made her rounds through the bunkers. The children still believed in heroes and happy endings. The adults had long since given up such hopes, but something in Jorak's voice made her pause. Administrator, Zeph's voice crackled through her communication device. I'm picking up something strange. The signal analysis computer has detected an anomaly in the background radiation. Kira hurried back to the command center. What kind of anomaly? It's very faint, but it looks like a response to our distress call, for the first time. In weeks, Kira felt her heart skip a beat. Are you certain? Not entirely. The signal is using a completely unknown transmission protocol, but it's definitely artificial, and it's getting stronger. High above Tharos Prime, Commander Vex received his own report. His sensors had detected a ship approaching the system, but it was unlike anything in his databases. Small, fast, and broadcasting on frequencies his people had never encountered. Unknown vessel, he transmitted on all channels. You are entering a Crimson Horde conquest zone. Withdraw immediately, or be destroyed. The response came back in perfect Krugan, though with an accent Vex had never heard. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the human vessel Endeavour. We have received a distress call from the planet below. We demand that you cease your attack on civilian targets immediately. Vex laughed, a sound like grinding stone. Humans, never heard of you. You have one chance to leave before we add your ship to our collection. Chen's voice came back steady and calm. I'm afraid we can't do that. We're here to help, and we're not leaving until those people are safe. The transmission ended, leaving Vex staring at his tactical display in disbelief. The unknown ship was tiny compared to his fleet, carrying perhaps a few dozen crew members. Did they really think they could challenge the might of the Crimson Horde? Prepare the forward batteries, he ordered. Let's show these humans what happens to those who interfere with our work. But as the Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, something unexpected happened. The ship didn't approach like a typical vessel. Instead, it seemed to dance through space, using gravitational fields and asteroid debris to mask its approach. Captain, reported Lieutenant Park, I'm reading 37 enemy vessels surrounding the planet. They're big, heavily armed, and they've got the planet under total blockade. Chen studied the tactical display. The odds were impossible. One ship against an entire fleet. But as he watched the enemy bombardment continue, he thought about the desperate voice in the distress call. Someone down there was counting on them. Double quotes Tom, what can we do with our equipment? Engineer Rodriguez grinned. Well, Captain, we've got mining lasers that can cut through asteroid rock. We've got survey probes that can map planetary surfaces. We've got an experimental gravity manipulator for studying stellar phenomena. And we've got something they don't, added Dr. Vasquez. What's that? Human ingenuity. As the Endeavour continued its approach, hidden in the shadow of Tharos Prime's largest moon, the crew began to prepare for the impossible. They were about to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy, and they intended to make it count. Asterisk storm. of salvation, the Endeavour emerged from behind Theros Prime's moon like a predator striking from darkness. But instead of charging directly at the enemy fleet, Captain Chen had devised something far more cunning. The ship dropped dozens of survey probes throughout the system, each one broadcasting false sensor readings and communication chatter. Confused. "Them yet?" Chen asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Sarah Park studied her displays with satisfaction. "The enemy fleet is trying to target 47 different signals. They can't tell which ones are real ships and which are decoys." Commander Vex stood on his bridge, watching his tactical display with growing frustration. The unknown human vessel had somehow multiplied into an entire fleet, appearing from multiple directions at once. His sensors showed impossible readings. Ships that couldn't exist, energy signatures that defied physics. "How many ships are there?" he demanded. "Uncertain, Commander. Our sensors are detecting multiple targets, but the readings are inconsistent. Some appear to be moving faster than light while still in normal space." Vex's tactical training told him this was impossible, but his eyes couldn't deny what they were seeing. "Focus fire on the largest signature. Destroy it." The Crimson Horde's massive batteries opened fire, sending torrents of plasma into empty space. The humans had used their survey probes to create ghost images, phantom ships that existed only in the enemy's sensors. While the Horde wasted ammunition on shadows, the real Endeavour moved unseen through the asteroid field, on Theros Prime. Kira felt the first moment of hope she had experienced in weeks. The bombardment had stopped. In the command bunker, every screen showed the same impossible sight. The Crimson Horde fleet was firing wildly in all directions, their formations breaking apart as they tried to target an enemy they couldn't locate. "What's happening up there?" asked Zeph, his voice filled with wonder. "Someone's fighting back," Kira whispered. "Someone actually came." Elder Jorak placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The old legends speak of warriors who fight with cunning rather than strength. Perhaps the stars have sent us such allies." Dr. Elena Vasquez worked frantically in the Endeavour's modified cargo bay, converting their geological equipment into something altogether different. The ship's mining lasers had been reconfigured into precision weapons, capable of cutting through the heaviest armor with surgical accuracy. "How are we doing on the gravity manipulator?" she called out to Engineer Rodriguez. "Almost ready, Doc. I've never tried to create an artificial gravity well this size, but the math checks out. If it works, we can pull their ships out of formation. And if it doesn't work, then we'll probably create a black hole and destroy the entire system." Alina paused in her work. "You're joking, right?" Rodriguez grinned. "Probably." Captain Chen watched the enemy fleet's confused responses with grim satisfaction. The Crimson Horde had overwhelming firepower, but they were used to fighting opponents who followed conventional tactics. Humans, as it turned out, were anything but conventional. "Sarah, target their flagship." "Tom, are you ready with the gravity manipulator?" "Ready as I'll ever be, Captain." "Alina, how are those mining lasers coming along?" "Weapons are online and ready. Just remember, we only get one shot at this." Chen took a deep breath. In the next few minutes, they would either save an entire species or die trying. But that was the human way. When faced with impossible odds, they didn't surrender. They got creative. "All stations, prepare for final approach. Let's show them what humans can do." The Endeavour burst from the asteroid field like a bolt of lightning, its engines blazing as it streaked toward the enemy flagship. But instead of attacking directly, It did something no military commander would expect. It flew straight through the enemy formation, weaving between the massive warships like a fighter pilot in an old war movie. Commander Vex watched in disbelief as the small ship danced through his fleet, somehow avoiding every shot fired at it. What are they doing? Why don't they stand and fight? He got his answer moments later. The Endeavour had been planting something during its reckless flight through the formation. Small devices, no bigger than a human fist, attached themselves to the hulls of the Crimson Horde ships. Gravity mines, Rodriguez announced with pride. My own design. They create localized gravity wells, pulling the ships together whether they want to or not. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Crimson Horde's massive warships, each one designed to operate independently, suddenly found themselves drawn toward each other by artificial gravity fields. Ships collided, formations crumbled, and the organized fleet became a chaotic tangle of metal and confusion. Now, Chen shouted. The Endeavour's modified mining lasers opened fire, their beams cutting through the enemy ship's armor like a knife through paper. But the humans didn't target engines or weapons. Instead, they went after something more important: the command and control systems. One by one, the Crimson Horde ships went dark as their bridge systems failed. Without central command, the crews panicked. Some ships tried to retreat, others fired blindly into space, and a few simply shut down entirely on Tharos Prime. The Zilani watched in amazement as their attackers' bombardment became increasingly erratic. Kira stood in the command bunker, hardly daring to believe what her sensors were telling her. The enemy fleet is in complete disarray, reported Zeph. Their formation has collapsed, and most of their ships appear to be dead in space. But how? One ship did this to an entire fleet. Elder Jorak's ancient eyes sparkled with something that might have been tears. They fought with their minds, child, like the heroes in the old stories. But the battle wasn't over. Commander Vex, his flagship damaged but still functional, managed to rally a portion of his fleet. 12 ships broke free from the gravity mines and formed a defensive formation around the planet. Enough games, Vex transmitted to the human ship. You've shown impressive tricks, but tricks won't save you now. Surrender, and we'll make your death quick. Captain Chen's response came back immediately. I've got a better idea. How about you leave this system and never come back? Impossible. The Crimson Horde never retreats. Then I guess we'll have to change that. What happened next would be remembered in the legends of both species for generations to come. The Endeavour didn't attack the remaining enemy ships. Instead, it did something completely unexpected. It headed straight for the planet's surface. Captain, Lieutenant Park called out urgently, "You're taking us into the atmosphere. Our shields won't protect us from a full bombardment." "That's not the plan," Chen replied. "Alina, are you ready?" Dr. Vasquez was strapped into the ship's modified shuttlecraft, surrounded by emergency medical supplies and communication equipment. "Ready, Captain. Just get me close to their command." Bunker. The Endeavour screamed through Tharos Prime's atmosphere, its hull glowing white-hot from atmospheric friction. Behind it, the remaining Crimson Horde ships gave chase, their weapons lighting up the sky like a deadly aurora. But the human ship had one more trick up its sleeve. As it approached the planet's surface, it released a cloud of metallic chaff, billions of tiny particles that reflected radar and confused targeting systems. The enemy ships found themselves firing blind, their shots missing the agile human vessel by meters. Dr. Vasquez's shuttle detached from the Endeavour and dove toward the surface. Using the larger ship's chaff cloud as cover, she landed near the Zilani command bunker just as the first human had ever set foot on an alien world. The bunker's entrance was sealed, but Elena had come prepared. She activated a translation device and spoke into her communicator. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Endeavour. We're here to help. Can you hear me?" Inside the bunker, Kira stared at her communication panel in disbelief. The voice was speaking in perfect Zilani, though with an accent she had never heard before. "We hear you," she replied. "Are you the ones fighting the Crimson Horde?" "That's us. We're going to get you out of here, but we need your help." "How many people are in the bunkers?" 8,000 civilians, mostly children and elderly. We have wounded who can't be moved." Elena's medical training kicked in immediately. "I'm a doctor. I can help with the wounded. But first, we need to coordinate with your people. Are there any fighters left?" Kira looked around the bunker at the faces of her people. They were miners, farmers, artists, and teachers. They had never been soldiers, but in their eyes she saw something new: hope. "We have about 300 adults capable of fighting, but we only have mining equipment and makeshift weapons." "That's perfect," Elena said with a smile in her voice. "Mining equipment is exactly what we need." Above them, the Endeavour continued its deadly dance with the Crimson Horde ships. Captain Chen pushed his vessel to its limits, using every trick he had learned in his years of deep space exploration. But the enemy was adapting, their tactics becoming more coordinated with each passing minute. "Captain," called out Navigator Kim, "we're taking damage. Hull integrity is down to 60%. How long can we keep this up?" "Maybe 10 minutes, maybe less." Chen looked at his crew, these brave humans who had volunteered to risk everything for people they had never met. "Tom, how's that gravity manipulator holding up?" "I can give you one more shot, Captain, but if we use it again, we'll probably burn out the entire system. Then let's make it count." The Endeavour suddenly changed direction, flying straight up from the planet's surface toward the enemy formation. The Crimson Horde ships moved to intercept, thinking the humans were making a desperate escape attempt. They couldn't have been more wrong. At exactly the right moment, Rodriguez activated the gravity manipulator at full power. The device created a massive gravitational anomaly, pulling the enemy ships toward each other with irresistible force. But this time, the humans had calculated the effect perfectly. The 12 remaining Crimson Horde ships were pulled together in a tight formation, their hulls scraping against each other as they struggled to break free. And in that moment of confusion, the impossible happened. From the planet's surface, 300 Zilani miners opened fire with their converted mining equipment. The same lasers that had cut through rock for generations now carved through the enemy ship's hulls. The same gravity hammers that had moved asteroids now crushed armor plating like paper. The peaceful Zilani had become warriors, inspired by the humans' courage and guided by their expertise. Together, the two species fought as one, their combined fire overwhelming the Crimson Horde's defenses. Commander Vex watched his fleet crumble around him, his tactical displays showing impossible readings. The humans had done more than just win a battle. They had turned farmers into fighters, miners into soldiers, and victims into victors. "This is impossible," he roared. "How can such a small force defeat the Crimson Horde?" His answer came from Captain Chen, transmitted on all frequencies, "Because we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight back. And that makes us stronger than any weapon you have." The remaining Crimson Horde ships began to retreat, their crews demoralized and their commander humiliated. As they fled the system, Commander Vex transmitted one final message. "This isn't over, humans. The Crimson Horde will return." Chun's response was calm and confident. "We'll be ready for you." As the enemy fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the Endeavour landed near the Zilani command bunker. Captain Chen stepped out onto the surface of Theros Prime, becoming the second human to set foot on an alien world. Kira emerged from the bunker, her 4 eyes wide with wonder as she saw a human being for the first time. They were smaller than she had expected, but there was something in their eyes that spoke of inner strength and determination. "You came," she said simply. "You actually came." Chen smiled. "That's what humans do. We help." Elder Jorak approached slowly, his ancient frame trembling with emotion. The old legends were true. Help did come from the stars, from the forgotten places where new life grows. Dr. Vasquez joined them, having spent the battle treating wounded Zilani in the bunkers. They're remarkable people, Marcus. Their healing abilities are beyond anything we've seen on Earth. And their courage, added Chen, looking at the Zilani fighters who had turned the tide of battle. They fought for their families, their homes, their future. That's something we can understand. As the sun set over Theros Prime, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, 2 species stood together on the surface of a world that had nearly been destroyed. The Zilani would rebuild their cities, stronger and more beautiful than before. The humans would continue their journey through the stars, knowing they had made the galaxy a little bit safer. But more than that, they had forged a friendship that would last for generations. The Zilani would teach the humans about healing and harmony, while the humans would share their knowledge of exploration and innovation. Kira looked up at the stars, no longer seeing empty space but infinite possibilities. "What happens now?" she asked. Chen followed her gaze upward. "Now we build something new, together." In the days that followed, the story of the Battle of Theros Prime would spread throughout the galaxy. The Crimson Horde would think twice before attacking peaceful worlds, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships might be watching. The Galactic Council would finally take notice of the small species from the 3rd planet of an unremarkable star system. And in the deepest space, other species would look up at the stars and wonder about these humans who had appeared like thunder from the void, ready to fight for strangers and die for justice. The age of humanity among the stars had begun not with conquest, but with compassion, not with weapons, but with the simple belief that when someone calls for help, you answer, because that's what humans do. They help, and the galaxy would never be the same.